This is my second video about the VL-1. In my last video I talked about the demo tune. Today I want to show you the features of this tiny keyboard. It's the first synthesizer Casio ever made. There's much written about the VL-1 on the internet, and you can find a lot of nice videos about it on YouTube. But because this little thing plays a certain role in the history of electronic music technology, and a big role in the history of toy and home keyboards, and especially in Casio's keyboard history, I decided to do my own review about it. It's probably the best known Casio keyboard of all times, and it's the epitome of a toy keyboard. Probably everyone has heard or seen it at one occasion or another. You might say, this is not the VL-1, but it's just the name that's different. This version was produced for Radio Shack, an American retailer and a division of Tandy Corporation. They sold a lot of Casio keyboards, but they rebranded all of them and called them Realistic Concert Made. They started to sell synthesizers in 1982. The first model was a Moog, and the second was the VL-1. Quite remarkable. They had the VL-1 from 1983 to 1985 on their shelves. There are two versions existing, one with a small and one with a larger display. There's also a French version, the Levasseur LW610, and a Russian version, the Electronica IM46. And Casio itself produced a few models that are more or less the same. The VL-1 was succeeded by the VL-10, which is even smaller. And without a calculator, the PT-1 in many different colors, the PT-10 in white, red and black, the PT-12, PT-22, and the Muppets edition, EP-10. But none of them is a synth. And there are a few emulations around. So I thought, I can't miss this one in my reviews. This is more or less where it all started for Casio. Or let's say it was their first big success on the keyboard market. Casio wasn't very experienced in building musical instruments at that time. They were well known for LCD watches and pocket calculators. In 1979, they released a special calculator, the Melody 80. You can play a little melody by pushing the buttons. This was Casio's first attempt to build something like a musical instrument. They produced some more of these calculators, and they tried to take it further. In 1980, they released their first home keyboard, the Casio Tone 201. The lack of experience led to a very creative developing and production phase in Casio's keyboard history, and they created some of the most special and weird home keyboards ever made. They tried out a lot of things, like accompaniment variations, a manual filter, an equalizer, melody guide, barcode reader, super drums, a radio, a cassette player, a double cassette player, just to name a few. Now, this is the keyboard with a calculator. It sounds strange at first, and it probably is, but the management thought that 5 instruments and a couple of rhythms isn't enough to have a good selling point. And in fact, the calculator extended the range of functions, because without it, it wouldn't be a synthesizer. It came out in 1981 and was produced until 1984, and it was quite a big success. I've read in a music magazine from 1981 that they have sold it 100,000 times per month, only in Japan. And although I don't think that many people really made use of the calculator, it was an unconscious reason to buy it. It gave it this weird high-tech appeal. But the main selling points were the price and the size. It was cheap and very portable. The price at that time was about $70. The Radio Shack model was sold for about $50 in 1984 and 1985. And they're still holding their value. I've seen biddings from around 40 up to 100 euros on eBay. And they're really not rare. Even the PT-1, which has the same sound but less functions, is quite expensive. One of the reasons why it's still so popular is because it was used in many pop music productions. Human League, Stevie Wonder, Robbie Williams, Fergie, just to name a few. The song where it's most prominent is Trio's Da Da Da. You might remember this. The success of this keyboard was a blessing and a curse for Casio at the same time, because it reinforced the image of a calculator company that happens to produce cheap entry-level instruments. They had a lot of problems, maybe they still have them today to get rid of that image. However, it's still in a good shape. I always kept it in the small vinyl bag, but of course I'm going to open it. First thing we see is that the speaker is completely closed. This is the reason why you can do didgeridoo or vocoder-like sounds when you cover the speaker with one hand. I will show you later. Here's the sound chip, the NEC D1867G. When you press a key, the sound chip produces a square wave. The pitch and envelope signals are then divided, smoothed by separate capacitors, mixed together again, and finally run through the amplifier. It's not very dirty, but I will clean it anyway. And it's always a good idea to clean the key contacts. It runs on 4 AA batteries, but you can also use the power jack. As always with Casio keyboards, negative center. If you put in new batteries, don't forget to push the P button in calculator mode. Otherwise the VL-1 might not work properly. Think of it as a kind of reset button. On the bottom side is also a tuning pot. You can tune it a half step up or down. Let's have a look at the features in detail. First of all, it's monophonic. It has 29 very tiny keys. They are not much bigger than the buttons of a calculator. You can see how small they are if I compare them to the mini keys of my PT87. This keyboard has the standard small keys. And these are the regular keys. The octave switch is simple but very effective. I wish every little keyboard had one. You can go one octave up and down and expand the key range from 29 to 53 keys. We have a volume and a balance slider, 3 operation modes, play, record and calculator, 5 instruments, 10 rhythms, a synthesizer, a sequencer, a display that shows the played notes and the tempo, and of course a calculator. If you don't push a key, it automatically turns off after a couple of minutes to save battery power. Let's play the preset sounds. First is piano. Every note has a number. The first G, for example, is 5 with a lower line. The middle G is just 5, and the higher G is 5 with an upper line. It's not that difficult, but you don't have to get used to it. Fortunately, you also hear the notes. Fantasy. This sound has vibrato, and when you press one of the tempo buttons, the vibrato gets a bit faster. You can switch the octave while holding down a key, but there's a short delay, so it's not very easy to keep the timing. Violin. This sound is good to show what you can do with one hand on the speaker. The effect is stronger than on keyboards with an open speaker, like most of them have. For example, the PT1. Flute. Guitar. You can use this as a bass. You may wonder what this last instrument is. It's called ADSR, and by default it sounds like this. But in fact it's like a user preset. You can edit it with 8 different parameters. I will show you later. 10 very minimalistic but very characteristic rhythms. These bleeps are the signature sounds of the VL-1. Press the rhythm button and one of the keys that show a rhythm name above. First is march. You can change the tempo in 19 steps. It's shown on the display. 0 is 131 BPM. Press reset to stop the rhythm. Waltz. 4-beat. Swing. Rock 1. Rock 2. Bossa Nova. Samba. Rumba. Begin. We have an editable sequencer with up to 100 notes, real-time recording and step-by-step editing. Playback with autoplay or one-key play. Switch to record mode. Push MLC, that stands for melody clear, to delete any previous recording. Play a melody. Don't worry about the timing, just take care that the notes are in the right order. Switch to play mode. Press the reset button to get to the beginning of the recording and use the one-key play buttons to play your melody. This is very useful in a live situation, cause it's not very easy to play on these tiny keys, especially if you want to play something fast. The second note is wrong, but we can change it. Switch back to record mode. Navigate to the right place with the one-key play buttons. Press delete. You hear a high beep sound. That shows that the note is deleted. But now one note is missing. Switch to record mode and navigate to the right place again. Play the missing note. The beep shows that it's inserted. Of course, you can change the sound. You can also let the VL-1 play your melody with the autoplay function, but then you have to record it properly. In this case, the timing was poor, and the inserted note made it even worse. Switch to record. Delete the previous recording and try to play it in the right tempo. It's a bit tricky to record it with the correct timing. It feels like the keys don't react quick enough, but maybe it's just because of my faulty playing skills. But I have discovered that the recording isn't accurate. The notes are much longer in autoplay. If you have problems with the timing, or if you want to record a faster version, for example, you can also use the one-key play buttons to record the melody again. Switch to record, press reset, and play the melody with the one-key play buttons. You can also practice with a rhythm. That could make it easier. Let's make it a bit faster. That's a nice tempo. Now record it. The tempo will be reset to 0 if you push the melody clear button, so you have to adjust the tempo again. The rhythm will not be recorded. If you press autoplay during playback, the playback will stop. If you press autoplay again, the playback will continue at the point where it stopped before. If you want to start from the beginning again, press reset. If you want to playback your recording with the rhythm, just start the rhythm before autoplay or after a few bars. When the playback is finished, the rhythm will stop automatically. Apart from a single run-through of the sequence, the VL-1 can also be programmed to repeat the sequence 4 times. Press delete before autoplay. You can change the rhythm or the tempo and the instrument and octave during playback. It would have been more convenient if the sequence was looped until you pressed the stop button. But it could also be nice to have a playback that stops automatically after a certain time. It's a bit of a compromise. Let's see how far we can go with just these 5 sounds. If you only need the 5 sounds and 10 rhythms, you should watch out for a PT1, for example. But there's still one thing we haven't talked about, and which makes this keyboard very special. I don't mean the calculator, although it's an important part of it. I'm talking about the synthesizer. The calculator memory is used for storing the synthesizer parameters. Its hardware is similar to the 1979 melody calculator. You can add, subtract, multiply, or divide your sounds. Just switch to calculator mode. Type in an 8-digit number. Each number stands for one of the 8 parameters. Push M+ to store the number in the calculator memory. Switch to play mode. and ADSR. And here you have a random sound. You can type in every number you want. Your telephone number, your birthday, whatever. You can't type in 0 as the first digit, but that doesn't matter. All the digits to the left will be set to 0 if you type in less than 8 numbers. If you just want to have fun with some randomly produced sounds, that's all you need to know. But if you want to know a little more about it, you should watch my next video. Thanks for watching.